Lionel Messi just demanded England be expelled from the 2026 World Cup in cold blood. Without hesitating in front of the entire planet's cameras, listen closely. The greatest player ever just demanded that they disqualify an entire national team from a World Cup, not just one player. An entire squad, and he didn't do it on impulse or just on a whim. He did it after seeing with his own eyes how VAR destroyed two dreams in the same tournament, on the same continent, under the same rules. First, it crushed Mexico in Azteca Stadium on July 5, 2026, in one of the most heart-wrenching matches in modern football history. Then it struck again, dangerous and ruthless, to sink Norway in Miami on July 11th. Referee Alireza Fagani, the experienced Iranian official, now Australian with appearances in 4 consecutive World Cups, was the name left at the center of the biggest conspiracy to shake this tournament. The crime, according to Messi, was executed in cold blood. The manipulation, he says, is historic, and the wound left in Mexico and Norway urgently needs addressing. A major heavyweight source is rocking this scandal. Journalist and 4 Mexican World Cup referee Carlos Antonio Bricio, who officiated 6 matches in the United States in 1994 and France 1998, with a record 7 red cards in only 6 matches, declared on air that VAR in this World Cup operates with different standards depending on the player's last name. 3 facts that don't lie. 2 penalties that changed the game against Mexico, and an annulled Norwegian goal that would have tied it. And only one team has benefited from all these controversial decisions in the exact same week. The name of that team is England. And today, on this channel, we will give you the 5 details you haven't heard anywhere else, and they prove why Messi's demand has solid grounds that FIFA simply cannot ignore. Stay until the end, because the most shocking part of this story arrives in the last minutes. Before we go on and reveal this whole mystery, like the video and subscribe to Anexo, Futbolero, so you don't miss anything coming in the intense hours ahead, and tell us in the comments, in just one word, was it robbery or justice? Write it now, just as the story begins. To understand the scale of what Messi publicly demanded, we must go back to the beginning. To Sunday, July 5, 2026, in Mexico City, at Azteca Stadium, that concrete cathedral which has witnessed Pele, Maradona, and 3 different World Cups. 1 hour later than planned, because a brutal storm lashed the capital and FIFA delayed the match, one of the most dramatic round of 16 matches in modern football kicked off. Mexico against England, an undefeated El Tri, without conceding single goal in their 4 previous matches of this 2026 World Cup, facing Tuchel's 3 Lions on their own sacred ground. 115,000 people inside the stadium, millions more in front of screens all over Latin America. The first 35 minutes belonged to Mexico, only Mexico. El Tri moved the ball with patience and intelligence, with that possession football that Javier Aguirre had built over months, and Raul Jimenez scared Jordan Pickford in the 15th minute with a header to the bottom right corner, which the English goalkeeper kept out with an extraordinary save. Declan Rice was carded with just 56 seconds on the clock for a blow to Luis Romo's head, something any referee on earth would punish without hesitation. Harry Kane was already arguing with the official from the opening minutes with that typical aggressiveness that the English call leadership, but the rest of the world calls referee pressure. Up to there, everything was fine. Those 98 seconds that shattered a nation's dream. In the 36th minute, Jude Bellingham headed home a perfect cross from Bukayo Saka to open the scoring. The Azteca went silent for the first time, and just 2 minutes later, in the 38th, the formula was repeated almost identically on Jesus Gallardo's flank. Bellingham appeared once more. In the same spot, took a pass from Kane and made it 2-0. 2 goals in 2 minutes. The exact same play, the same scorer. But here came the first dramatic twist of the night. Mexico did not quit. In the 42nd minute, during a set piece full of deflections and chaos inside the English box, Joan Canones emerged from the chaotic scramble to score his fourth goal of this World Cup, pulling it back to 2-1 at halftime. The Azteca roared again. El Tri was still alive. Can you imagine how that crowd felt? 115,000 people going from silence to madness in 45 minutes. That is the sheer scale of what was at stake on that pitch. The second half started with Mexico down a man on the bench because Cesar Montes went off injured. Javier Aguirre had to make changes before the restart was whistled. In the 48th minute, O'Reilly rattled the English post, making the Azteca hold its collective breath. Then in the 51st, Jorge Sanchez tripped Kane. Inside the box, referee Alireza Vagani pointed to the penalty spot, a pretty questionable call so far. But within the logic of the game, Kane converted in the 59th minute. 3-1, the blow felt final. But then something completely unexpected happened, sparking a massive fuse, igniting the biggest conspiracy of the 2026 World Cup. In the 52nd minute, English defender Yarel Kwanzaa made a dangerous tackle, a brutal hit on Jesus Gallardo that the ref initially failed to punish with a red. Mexican players quickly surrounded him. The entire Azteca crowd roared with pressure. Finally, after reviewing the VAR monitor, Vagani showed the Englishman a red card. England playing with 10 men, Mexico had a real shot at a comeback. 66th minute. Harry Kane brought down Brian Gutierrez. Once again, after VAR, the referee awarded El Tri a penalty. Raul Jimenez scored in the 68th, 3-2. The match was alive, but the remaining minutes were not enough to equalize. The score did not budge. And here comes the second dramatic twist, the one no one has reported with this precision. During Kane's celebration, the 59th minute, when play should have restarted from the center circle with possession for Mexico, referee Vagani made an unprecedented decision in World Cup history. He ruled that Brian Gutierrez had taken an incorrect kickoff during the stoppage and handed the ball to England. A decision never seen before. A decision that disrupted the game at its most delicate moment. And at that exact instant, the Mexican players began protesting something that went way beyond a single play, something far beyond the written rulebook, something called inequality. And that word echoed through the locker rooms, the benches, and reached the ears of Lionel Messi in another stadium. Let's pause here, because what comes next connects two worlds that seemed completely separate, but were actually always joined by the same invisible thread. 6 days after Mexico was eliminated on July 11th, 2026 at Miami Stadium, Norway faced England in the quarterfinals. The exact same English team, the same VAR system, but a different referee, France's Clement Turpin. Yet the same underlying narrative. And what happened in Miami during that quarterfinal match is the second piece of this puzzle. Norway had eliminated Carlo Ancelotti and Vinicius Jr.'s Brazil in the round of 16 with a brace from Erling Haaland and a monumental display by goalkeeper Erling Nyland, reaching the quarterfinals, making this their absolute best World Cup run since their last appearance in 1998, 28 years ago. Ståle Solbaken's team was the ultimate fairy tale of the tournament, the story the football world wanted to see written. Andreas Schjelderup scored first for Norway in the 36th minute, a great goal through the legs of Jordan Pickford, putting the Vikings in the lead. English fans immediately complained that Harry Kane had been fouled by Patrick Berg before the play, but VAR did not step in. The first chapter of the controversy. Jude Bellingham equalized in first half stoppage time, with a brilliant individual goal that was also clouded in controversy. Norwegian players argued that the ball had hit an overhead cable holding a TV camera during the action right before the goal, which should have halted play. FIFA issued an official statement denying that possibility. But the ball sensors, as reported by the Mirror, detected a frequency spike at the exact moment of impact. VAR did not intervene and the goal stood. In the second half, Torbjorn Hagen scored what would have been 2-1 for Norway in the 54th minute, a goal that would have given the Vikings the crucial lead. But VAR stepped in and referee Turpin disallowed the goal because he ruled Erling Haaland had fouled Elliot Anderson before the corner kick that led to the play. The same VAR that missed the overhead cable, the same VAR that missed the foul on Kane before the first Norwegian goal. But it definitely saw Haaland's foul on Sanson to disallow the 2-1. Norway protested with total fury. The match went into extra time tied at 1-1. In extra time, Bellingham appeared again to secure the 2-1 after a rebound from goalkeeper Nyland. The Norwegian dream was over. England advanced to the semifinals, and the controversy over the refereeing that started at the Azteca with Mexico reached historic levels in Miami with Norway. And at that exact moment when Lionel Messi said something completely unexpected, shaking the very foundations of world football, it hit like an unprecedented earthquake in World Cup history. Messi, the reigning champion, spoke from Qatar 2022 with Argentina. He knows the pressure of a global tournament better than anyone on earth. As the top active World Cup goalscorer in history, he finally decided to speak up when most people expected nothing but diplomatic silence. For days, he watched the VAR apply different rules to different matches with different teams. After the chaos in Miami against Norway, he finally decided to speak. What Messi demanded was no simple review and certainly not an apology. It was far more shocking. He demanded they explore disqualifying England from the entire tournament. If it was proven that referee decisions systematically favored the Three Lions over two teams that truly deserved it. He built three massive arguments with the precision of a legend who has lived 4 World Cups from the inside. He knows every single rule and trap. His first point was factual: the data does not lie. In the clash against Mexico, referee Fagani wrongly gave the restart to England when it clearly belonged to Mexico, the powerhouse host nation. Even the system called it unprecedented. Then came the penalty given to England in the 51st minute for the alleged foul of Jorge Sanchez on Kane. Even Alan Shearer questioned it, the legendary BBC commentator and one of the absolute greatest goal scorers in Premier League history. He admitted bluntly that Kane did touch the foot of the Mexican defender, but that contact was never enough for a penalty. Even Thomas Tuchel, the manager of England, who actually won that night, was visibly upset with the terrible refereeing. He openly admitted that some VAR decisions were completely incomprehensible to anyone who actually understands the game. Tuchel even publicly questioned why South American referees were running the VAR in a match of this massive scale. That sparked a storm of outrage. The second argument from Messi came from personal experience. He lived it himself during his own group stage match against Algeria. Messi committed a harsh tackle on Issa Mondi, and Polish referee Simon Marciniak did not even book him. Legendary Mexican referee Carlos Antonio Bricio, veteran of 6 World Cup matches and holding the record of 7 red cards in those games, was clear. The tackle from Messi on Mandy met every single element of Rule 12 for a direct red card.
Excessive force,
a challenge from behind, and a clear danger to the rival. Yet VAR completely ignored it. Messi stayed on, scored a historic hat-trick, and the very next day, Folarin Balogun was sent off for an identical tackle in the match between USA and Bosnia. Legendary pundit Jamie Carragher, the former Liverpool defender, said it bluntly on television. You cannot have one rule for superstar names and another for the rest. That is not refereeing, it is favoritism. The third argument Messi raised was a deeply philosophical one, the most painful, because it touches something far beyond the pitch. A tournament decided by referees rather than brilliant goals is simply not a real football tournament. It becomes a tournament of political influence. And if VAR, built to eliminate injustice, becomes the ultimate tool for bias, then the beautiful game loses its entire essence. It loses its universal appeal and the fair play that defines it. Now, here is what our channel can reveal today, details you will not find anywhere else. The match referee, Alireza Fagani, chosen for Mexico against England, faced an online petition signed by over 865,000 fans 2 years before this World Cup. Iraqi fans launched it at the Asian Cup, where he booked a player just for celebrating a goal, not for playing, but for celebrating. The petition demanded his suspension, but FIFA ignored it, making him one of only 2 referees chosen for 4 consecutive World Cups. Over his career, he has refereed 554 matches with 2,092 yellows, 108 reds, and 146 penalties. Is Fagani capable? That is not the issue. The real question is whether the system is clean. What happened between minutes 52 and 59 of the Mexico versus England clash was no accident. It was a pattern. First, Kwanzaa escaped a red card for a brutal tackle on Gallardo, forcing Mexican players to protest for several minutes just to get VAR to step in. Then, the ball was handed back to England when it belonged to Mexico. Then Harry Kane scored to make it 3-1, and only then was the restart robbery corrected. But the damage was already done. 4 days later in Miami, Hegem scored to put Norway 2-1 up, only for VAR to disallow it for an alleged foul by Erling Haaland on Anderson. But the same VAR, he fails to see Berg's clear foul on Kane before that first Norwegian goal. 3 massive decisions. 2 games, 1 team getting every single break. A serious question for Thomas Tuchel and the Football Association bosses, and for the FIFA officials who appointed those referees and those teams in the VR room. How many coincidences do we need before they stop being called coincidences? The internet absolutely exploded after Messi spoke out. Within 12 hours, the viral hashtag bearing his legendary name, combined with the word expulsion, pulled in tens of millions of views. Media outlets across 16 nations splashed the superstar's demands across their front pages. Meanwhile, the Football Federation released a fierce official statement, calling the refereeing against England completely unacceptable. Norway's federation also fired back, stating that Hegem's disallowed goal in the 54th minute had absolutely no legal basis. Then the unthinkable happened. A voice emerged from where nobody expected. Neymar, just hours before announcing his retirement from the Brazilian national team after a bitter loss to Norway, publicly backed Messi. The legendary Santos forward spoke directly from the MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, declaring that football desperately needs referees brave enough to be fair, no matter how big the superstar standing in front of them. A legend who just lost his final World Cup, standing up for those who were robbed. That is the most painful part. 115,000 fans inside the Azteca wept on the night of July 5th. 40 years waiting for a quarterfinal. And when El Tri finally got there, the dream was stolen by highly controversial penalty calls, by a restart that felt like a robbery, and a scoreline that lied. Head coach Javier Aguirre said his players should hold their heads high because they gave everything. But Aguirre knew. The players knew. And Lionel Messi, watching from afar, knew too. A Norwegian side that had not seen a World Cup since 1998, back when Erling Haaland's father wore the shirt, was busy writing the greatest chapter of their modern football history. They knocked out mighty Brazil in the round of 16, reached the quarterfinals, and in Miami faced that exact same English squad that had beaten Mexico 6 days earlier. Their dream died the same way with a VAR that only saw what it wanted. It ignored what would have changed everything. When the story of this 2026 World Cup is written, one haunting question remains: was it fair? Messi's response is not about bitterness. It is a demand for respect for Mexico, for Norway, and for everyone who plays fair. 40 years ago in this very country, Diego Maradona scored the goal of the century against England in 1986. No technology, no VAR. Today, 4 decades later, in the very stadium where Maradona became immortal, Mexico fell to those same English rivals. But this time, magic did not decide it, a screen did. The difference between 1986 and 2026 is not technology. Back then, nobody doubted who deserved to win. One single phrase sums this up. A short, powerful truth that means more than any technical report FIFA could write. The world ignoring the heartbreak of Mexico and Norway today will have to answer tomorrow for every single decision made during those moments that altered World Cup history. And that is exactly what Lionel Messi has brought to light, not with rage, but with the pure authority of a World Cup champion. The credibility of a man who knows this game inside and out far better than any suit signing off on referee appointments in Zurich. The elite silencing Mexico and Norway today will have to admit tomorrow that football owes them a debt. A massive, historic debt. A debt that Messi was brave enough to call out, just when everyone expected him to stay silent. If this video strikes a chord, hit that like button right now. Do it for Mexico, do it for Norway, for everyone who deserved far more than VAR allowed. Hit subscribe to Nexo Futbolero and turn on notifications so you do not miss any of the massive revelations coming soon, because this tournament is far from over and we will be here covering it all. Share this with someone who needs to hear this truth, because real truths only spread when people who believe in justice choose to share them. Our next video on Nexo Futbolero will shake everything you think you know about this 2026 World Cup. The next chapter is shocking. This is Nexo Futbolero, where we live and breathe the beautiful game.